In 1975, American audiences were blown away by the award-winning film Nashville. This satirical musical comedy drama tells the stories of 24 people involved in the gospel and country music industry. The story is interwoven with the efforts of a local businessman to plan a concert rally for a populist outsider running for president as the replacement party candidate. Nashville was applauded by film critics, as Roger Ebert wrote in his original review, "After I saw it, I felt more alive. I felt I understood more about people. I felt somehow wiser. It's that good a movie." However, some critics received the film differently, some critics being the actual city of Nashville. Mainstream country music enthusiasts despised the film upon release, believing it mocked their talent and integrity. The director of Nashville, Robert Altman, believed they were upset because he chose not to use their music, and instead let the actors compose their own material. Robert Bernard Altman was an American film director, screenwriter, and producer. He is consistently ranked as one of the most influential and successful filmmakers in American cinema. Because of his unique style of storytelling that uses humor and satire to express his personal vision, Altman has received a reputation for being anti-Hollywood and a nonconformist. Altman was born in Kansas City, Missouri in 1925. During World War II, at the age of 18, he flew more than 50 bombing missions. In 1946, Altman moved to California and, on a whim, found his way into filmmaking. Success came when he sold a script to RKO for the 1948 film Bodyguard.
You in the meat business? In a way. I keep the meat warm. I'm a bodyguard.
A year later, upon his return to Kansas City, Altman accepted a job as a writer and director for the Calvin Company. After having directed 65 films, he was recruited by a local businessman to write and direct a documentary film on juvenile delinquency in Kansas City. The success of the film, The Delinquents, prompted him to move back to California and co-directed the 1957 film The James Dean Story. Altman was propelled into years of success in writing and directing. On November 20th, 2006, he passed away at the age of 81 due to complications from leukemia. A passionate filmmaker known to reject convention and pursue humor in truth, Robert Altman will be remembered as one of the greats in American cinema. In Roger Ebert's analysis of the film, he ponders what Nashville is truly about, ultimately concluding that the film may be great because you can't really answer that question. Indeed, the complex, interwoven narrative make for a film that cannot be reduced to a singular meaning, and instead functions more as a broad commentary on the socio-political climate in 1970s America. From the very first chaotic images in which the audience is rapidly introduced to all 24 major characters, Altman makes it abundantly clear that he is not concerned with the narrowly focused, explicitly linear storytelling formula often found in Hollywood films. Alternatively, he tells his story in fragments, and though some are more apparently connected than others, they all converge to form a critique of popular thought surrounding American politics, history, and culture at the time. With his fragmented storytelling, Altman calls his audience's attention to the fragmentation ever present in American society, calling the notions of the country's unity and success into question. As discussed by Hassan Malehi, Altman constantly juxtaposes scenes in which characters highlight a perceived image of American achievement with overt displays of the divide that continues to exist among Americans. For example, the film opens with a recording session in which country star Haven Hamilton praises the great triumphs of his country in a zealous ode to America. Throughout the film, there is a persistent attempt to counter this idealized version of the country that the song presents, such as the frequent references to President Kennedy and his assassination. In emphasizing Kennedy's image, Altman reminds his audience that his murder is just one of countless American tragedies, displaying a bleaker yet arguably more realistic version of American history than Hamilton. Likewise, it is not the actual storyline focusing on the campaign of presidential candidate Hal Philip Walker and the replacement party that proves important to the film's meaning, but rather the idea that it serves as a continuous symbol of the deep political unrest that results from the divisive two-party system. Filmed in the wake of the infamous Watergate scandal and the approaching culmination of the Vietnam War, Nashville does not shy away from including characters that remind audiences of the pain and conflict caused by these unsteady times. For instance, a young soldier who has returned from Vietnam stands watch over star singer Barbara Jean's hospital room, and his presence serves little other narrative purpose than to highlight the uglier aspects of American history and culture that Hamilton neglected to mention in his utopian ballad. So yes, deducing the exact meaning behind all these ideas and criticisms remains a complicated task, but this is primarily the result of the varied and vast political, historical, and cultural observations Altman has injected into every scene of the film.
Although it was produced by ABC Motion Pictures and distributed by Paramount, Nashville affords very little attention to the guidelines spelled out by the big-budget pictures being released by major Hollywood studios at the time. For one, Altman refuses to confine his story to any one genre. It is simultaneously a musical, a nuanced drama, and a satire of the American political and cultural climates. Made during a decade that reinforced the commercial value of genre-conforming films ranging from The Exorcist to The Godfather, Nashville stands out as an especially unique example of an alternative storytelling strategy. Stylistically, Altman borrows more reality-invoking techniques from the French New Wave and Italian neorealist movement than from the traditional narrative model of Hollywood filmmaking. For example, he created a new sound recording system in order to capture his actors interrupting and talking over each other as they would in a real-life conversation. Like films of the French New Wave, Altman frequently uses deep focus, allowing him to visually place his many characters in positions that indicate their equal narrative importance. Like directors from the Italian neorealist movement, Altman does not rely on star acting power to carry his film. While he did not opt to use professional actors, unlike many Italian neorealist films, it is said that Altman placed a large degree of trust in his actors' interpretations of their characters, allowing them to frequently improvise on set and even write their own songs for the film. Additionally, Altman's use of a large ensemble cast serves to reject the notion of stardom so frequently exhibited in Hollywood films. This lends itself well to Altman's thematic aims, as the film can also be read as a critique of America's obsession with celebrity and the frenzied mass media culture that results. Throughout the film, Shelley Duvall's ditzy Martha, aka L.A. Joan, provides a somewhat comedic example of the mindless, empty infatuation with fame as she repeatedly attempts to capture the attention of Nashville's many country music star hopefuls. On a more serious level, Altman's integration of plot lines surrounding the musical entertainment industry and the political campaign can be interpreted as a criticism of the unhealthy relationship between the news media, entertainment mediums, and the political sphere. Of course, it is necessary to acknowledge that his critique of these systems was made from within the system itself, but his substantial stylistic and narrative deviation from Hollywood standards allows him to maintain the integrity of his commentary. Altman's analysis comes to a startling conclusion with the shooting of Barbara Jean, as she performs at a political rally. Using this as a final statement, he once more evokes the assassination of President Kennedy. In doing so, he makes a final appeal to his audience to acknowledge and remember their country's social, political, and cultural history in its entirety, including the tragedies, the defeats, and the personal mistakes. Ultimately, this all serves to further the perception of Nashville as a warning against the blurred lines that are created between historical fact and opinion when the formation of national identity and historic memory rely too heavily on mass media forms such as recorded music or film. Referring back to the example of Hamilton's opening song, Altman effectively sends the message that this simple, glorified version of American history merely undermines the scope of both American progress and failure over time.